Hello and welcome to another visit to Sowerby Bridge and the Canal Wharf and Basin. And today we came, because this is our third visit now, and there was sunshine, so let's chase the sunshine, and we found it at Sowerby Bridge. What an unusual thing, we've been looking for this sunshine since January. Anyway, here we are, the canal boat that's just come through the lock, and it's called Faraday. Now, when I was at school, the only thing I knew about Faraday was it was Michael Faraday, and he created electric motors and dynamos and capacitors and all sorts. And the question recently was, what happens to a canal barge in a thunderstorm, you know, with lightning? Well, Faraday, that brings me to thinking that it becomes a Faraday cage. If it's a metal construction, the lightning will hit it and go right round the boat and down to earth through the water, and no effect to the boat. Well, that's my theory. You all may have your own, but there we are. We had a lovely visit at Sowerby Bridge, and this time we went onto the far towpath so that we could see the whole complex from that vantage point. And of course, it's a towpath walk. It was well frequented. There was walkers, hikers, bikers, and people just taking in the view, as we were. And Steve was there with his 35mm camera. Yeah, it was digital these days. Long gone are the 35mm, it's all digital. And the couple who had that boat were quite friendly. They told us quite a lot about it. And they were saying when they bought the boat, the engine wasn't adequate, so they had to have a new engine fitted. And I asked about water cooling, and he said, no, what it is, they have something like a radiator that hangs at the back of the bow, and as it goes through the water, it cools the engine water. Wow, never knew that. Right, this is coming on to the fettling part of the complex, where boats are being worked on at various stages. And this was interesting because we're going to be seeing a chap here who was working on the big round boat. I think it was a Dutch boat, and he actually was welding parts that he was then fitting onto it. There's always some activity going on here. It's always interesting. We never fail to be impressed. And that's a general view of all the berths with the boats in and the warehouses in the background. And then a little bit further on the towpath, we'll be looking at something else. Now then, the Scouts, and that boat there, olive drab green, always brings the army back to me. I wonder, is it belonging the Scouts? And here we are. This is Wayne House Tower, and it was commenced in 1871. It was completed in 1875, and it was built by John Edward Wainhouse, and it was to take smoke from the dye works above the houses and to give a cleaner atmosphere. And the chimney is 253 feet high. Anyway, if you're around that neck of the woods, it might be worth a visit, because there's steps inside, 403 steps that goes right to the top, where you'd have a lovely commanding view. Apparently it was never used for smoke. And there's the Christ Church. It's an Anglican church, and the canal runs beneath it via the Tool Lane lock, and it comes into this complex here. And I'll leave you with the video so you can have a look round like we did. Now, I've heard the term laid on thick, but this has certainly been laid on thick, and it will need to be, because it's protecting all the metal. And this is the real fettling shop. There's all sorts going on here: grinding, painting, repairing, and there's benches all over the place. There we are, hand brush with a socket set and a tin of paint and a disc, all being used to good advantage. And these are the boats laid up on that side of the canal, and that looks like what used to be covering a coal barge. And here, now this is something very unusual in this day and age. It's canal art. Now, all this was prevalent when I was a kid 80 odd years ago, but apparently canal art is consistent of roses and castles, and there are some mighty fine paintings on one or two of the boats. But it's nice to see the decoration still being used. And there we are, buckets and watering cans on top of the cabs there, all beautifully decorated. If you go down to the boat museum at Ellesmere Port, you will see a shed where the artists had kept all the paint and what have you. Now this is a 1969 Daimler, and it's got a V8 engine, and that's a rare beast, but a beautiful car, beautiful. But like everything else with an age, it takes some looking after. I had a friend who restored one, and he bought it as an MOT runner, but it was as rotten as a fruitcake, and it took him 7 years to rebuild it. And at the end of the day, after he spent all the money on it, he got hardly anything like what he'd spent on it. And that Swan, huge paddles for feet, and normally you get swans paired for life, so either this one's lost a partner or he's ostracised on his own. And there's a daisy, again depicted on the canal boat painting, the artwork, and one or two bits. It's like a ship's chandlery here. There's all sorts to look at. And the old Morris van. Now, is it right for restoration or is it past it? We won't know until we give a proper good look at the chassis and all the running gear underneath. But there's looking at all the holiday hire boats, and from what we could tell on our visit that day, the fleet was in. I think there was only one berth that was empty. It was all full, ready for the new holiday makers. What a fantastic way to spend a week or so on one of those, fully equipped, beautifully laid out and in nice condition. And that's my kind of boat. It's got a good commanding cabin there, and that's about it. This is the end of the video, so hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for staying with us. It's quite a long one, over 10 minutes, but here we are. On the way back, we decided to go on the Hebden Bridge Road, and at Ludenden Foot we turn left over the tops, and this is the view that met us. Hollingworth Lake, which I believe supplies water to the Rochdale Canal. Bye for now. Bye for now.